All right, 7:44 here on this Friday morning wake-up call. It is time for Friday with the Fuzz here on WRMN AM 1410. I'll toss it on over to Mr. Michael Greene.
Thank you, Derek. In the studio today with Chief Jeff Swoboda from the Elgin Police Department and Sergeant Jim Lalley, who is the commander of the tactical response team, and we've got a lot of questions for him because you went all rock star again. Elgin Police did yesterday, kind of hitting all over a couple days ago, all over Facebook. It was big media from the city came out. You had a little video that you put out yourself talking about the search that was conducted on Wednesday, I guess, right? Yeah, Wednesday. With an escapee from the Elgin Mental Health Department. If you could maybe talk a little bit about that, I'll let you talk as much as you want about it. And Jim, I know we've got lots of questions for you about how the whole search went down and helicopters and intersections. I don't know, closed, not in the closed. We'll let you talk about that too. But it's great stuff.
A lot going on. Ended very well, but so. To not take up the whole time with the story, but shortly around 8 o'clock, we got information that during a transport of a subject that Jesse, they were stopped Vega, over at, stopped off at Dundee. Yeah, Jesse Vega. They were stopped over off at Dundee, and he took off out of their van. So I'm not sure exactly, but so we've got information that we have an escaped prisoner, and but was also getting evaluated at EMHC, and so there was a lot of questions with that. We had EMHC staff, that's Elgin Mental Health Center, staff running around the neighborhood up there, running around close to the police department, looking for him. So the street patrol did a great job. They organized a very quick response and tried to start looking for him, but at that point can run anywhere. From this point, the last scene, there was a very large area he could go. So they set up a perimeter as best they could. Fast forward the perimeter, we call in more officers. We eventually expand the perimeter, have many officers there. I'll let Jim talk about how other neighboring agencies were called out. We do a car plan for patrol, but then also there were some neighboring agencies that had some of their SWAT team members who were in the area training. We knew there were going to be some large areas to search, and
the longer the search goes, the larger the search area has to get.
It can be right, and in the end, it turned out not to be. But yes, you don't know, and it's like playing hide and go seek with your friends, but there's no boundaries,
right,
so
right.
You can keep running if you want, and so that becomes difficult. So, anyways, we come back and we have multiple officers out there. We're out there for 8 hours or so, and eventually we get information from a lady who hears some coughing going on in kind of a cellar door, and she goes, good for her. She goes and investigates it and finds him sitting down underneath the cellar area. So we she then sees that he's running towards a cab, and then calls the Elgin Police Department, tells us. We immediately call the cab company. They then check with their driver, and sure enough, he does have somebody new. So that's kind of the one side of the story. And so as that's going on, also then the driver, as he's just starting his shift, all of a sudden has somebody jump in and wants to go to O'Hare Airport with no money, no luggage, and I don't know, but it sounds like a very smart guy, at least street smart with it, and says, okay, hold on a second here, let's use my phone. He kind of drives over to where the police all were.
He also had a pretty stainless steel bracelet on, from what I understand.
Yeah, but he didn't see that. He was able to change clothes.
That might have been the dead giveaway.
Right. Had he ran up with handcuffs, that would probably been a little more, but he does a great job and comes over by near where the police were. It kind of all comes together, and we end up making an arrest. So just really showed the power, and we'll get into all these topics. Just wanted to give a very quick overview for if anybody didn't know, but we'll get into the specifics. But really just the power of social media, our relationships with other agencies, our relationship with the community. I mean, they came out just in force in that area looking for it and forwarding on Facebook, and then to the cab company who had technology available that when we called and had information, they had very quickly could tell us what we needed to know, to the lady who investigated the cough and then knew eventually or right away as soon as the person came out, that's the guy they're looking for. So our code red system, just many victories with this, and ultimately he was put back in jail, which sounds like until his trial is up, he needs to be. So just a very long day, but ended well, and just a lot of kudos to go around, but just specifically to that to the lady, and we're going to be giving out some awards in the future here to the cab driver to the woman who ultimately first saw him and take off, and then also the cab company. We were able to call the dispatch center. They were great with us, so it was just a great day. Ended up being a great day.
It was a funny set of circumstances in my regard. I was telling you that I left here at about 8:25 or so in the morning, and at 3 different intersections, I saw Elgin police vehicles going through the intersections extremely slowly. I felt like, of course, I didn't know anything that was going on at the time. Very slowly, looking everywhere. What's going on? And then I thought, maybe I'm just paranoid. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. But then, I don't know how much later the Facebook post went out, right? I think I saw it several hours later.
Pretty quick. I think
but
probably
I was working.
It was within a half hour, I think.
Yeah, within a half hour or so when we were out there.
Okay.
Oh, then you saw it way later.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I saw it way later, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what all that was about. And I kind of, was then able to piece that together. But it sounds like that, coupled with the code red and some of the other information, some statistics you guys shared with me, the Facebook post itself, you said how many people did that reach?
So
It was over 100,000.
yeah, I think around 150,000 total. Our Facebook page just blew up. The code red really helped.
And that's the reverse phone calling.
That's the reverse phone
right?
calling, yeah. And one point as we're going through it as well, just so people understand, we don't like to, at times we may have to restrict comments on a post, but we normally don't like to. People want to, complain about something we've done or think we shouldn't have done something, fine, we leave those up. But the one thing we need to remind people with that, people can get on there and post just bad information. Mm-hmm. And throughout the day, there were just different reports of, what he done. He just beat up a cop. He's wanted by the FBI. I mean, just a lot of things that were just completely not true. And we're not going to get in the middle of it. We don't get on there and correct people because that's all we would be doing. So we just want to remind people, unless you hear it from the Elgin Police Department, from Christie's making the post, or I do one that says Chief Swoboda here, you can't take it. It may be the truth. It may turn out to be the truth, but don't go off that information because people skew things and say things the way they want, or they just make things up to be somehow relevant, and
I'm sure you've done the social experiment. I know in whether it was a sociology class in college or a law enforcement class that I took in college, where the instructor started out telling a secret to the first person in the class.
Telephone gamers.
The telephone game, right? And then they whisper it to the next person, and by the time it got through 30 people, it was a completely different story with all kinds of fabrication, and the truth had been expanded, and so that's the same kind of thing that social media can be, because you can take that post and then put your own information on it when you share it or do whatever else.
Right, and then that becomes viral in itself, really, and then they're sharing it. And
really, it escaped from 2 police officers, and wait, no.
Yeah, there were things about hostages, there were things about, a homicide that occurred during this. I mean, it was just... And like I said, so we can't respond to those. And the nice thing about Facebook is we can get it out very quick, and we can do code red very quick. But it really is a one-way type of communication. We're not going to be answering people's questions, especially during a busy scenario that we don't have time for. And Christy's very good at going on there and answering what you can, or says, call this number, forward what we can. But during that, some people asking, hey, did you check this address? We're not going to be on there saying, yes we did, no, we didn't. So people just need to understand that's part of the game as far as what we're doing. We're trying to get it out. We're trying to let as many people know as quickly as we can. But we're not going to be able, because that just opens up hundreds of questions. I think we had over 500 posts on this one thing. It was, I think by definition, it was actually a viral video. So from the police department. So
Sergeant Lalley, I'd like to have you talk a little bit about the search that was conducted, and also ask you on something like this where that video does go viral. Does that hurt the investigation then as well, where you're sometimes maybe getting bad information that you're chasing down that may or may not be factual, and does that hurt then as well, much as it helps?
I think it's good and bad, but just to start with, probably the biggest thing for us was the perimeter, to contain them. So we were using multiple agencies. We use an ILEAS, what's called an ILEAS car plan, which is the surrounding agencies will actually send officers, and we'll put them on the perimeter to free up some of our officers. We eventually used our tactical response team and then the state police tactical response team on the inside, and what we were doing was we were working with DuPage County Bloodhounds, Cook County Sheriff's Police Bloodhounds, and the King County Sheriff's Police Bloodhound. So we had a lot of different things going on. everything from, we were working even with our code enforcement simultaneously, who was giving us list of abandoned houses in the area. We were checking those. And where it comes into with the public is we are also responding to possible sightings. So we had a lot of different things going on. We did have Air 1 up in the air, which was, we have a tactical flight officer from Elgin PD who was up in Air 1. They landed State Police District 2 and they picked them up and then they're up. So we had a lot of different things going on, but one of the things we did
Because
do
Elgin doesn't own a copter.
no,
Okay.
we don't own a helicopter yet, but you know, we do have 2 people who are, it's a multi-jurisdictional and it's out of Rockford.
I see.
But we had a lot of different things going on, and we did see a lot of the public out there. And you know, when it comes down to it, some may say, God, they're out, you know, they're following us. But at the same point, I really believe the reason he was where he was and didn't move is because he was suppressed right there. All the police, he had to have known all the public was out there looking for him. We had reports of even people standing on their streets looking into cars as they drove by just to see, is that the guy, that the guy. And you know, we don't want anyone to confront him, but we had thousands and thousands of eyes in that neighborhood. I really don't think he could have gotten up and moved.
In the end, how far away did he actually get from the escape point?
You know, I think he was only a matter of blocks, and probably the biggest hurdle we had initially is that we had next to no information as to where he ran. We knew that he got out of the car at the BP Amico, and we had suspicions about what direction he went, but we really didn't know. We had
No direction of travel when he left originally.
You know, normally if someone had escaped from police custody, maybe they would have chased him and we would have had a last known. We had very, very little information go on, and that's what forced us to do the things we did. Even with the information, we trying to exactly figure out whose custody he was. I mean, you know, we knew he was Elgin Mental Health, but was he, you know, eventually we determined he was a criminal prisoner. He was actually in custody for actually a high-profile crime up at Great America, we later learned. And so a lot of different things were going on all at the same time.
Another thing we learned as well is that Elgin residents don't bunker down or hunker down, whatever the word is. You know, we're telling people, you know, this is what's going on in the neighborhood, and especially the reports that we got from Air 1, as Jim said, was just that everybody came out. It was searching their own areas, was looking, and I'm not surprised at all, but it just is, again, just very impressed. I always tell people, I mean, every success we have within the police department, or probably, quite frankly, within the city, there's a resident tied to it. I mean, they're just an extension of the police department. And, you know, whether it's the cab driver, whether it's the person who called, whether it's just the resident who was out looking in their area but didn't find them, they deserve just as much credit. I mean, everybody really comes together, and it was just great to see. So I'm not surprised at all by it, because we see it all the time. Like I said, I don't know how many times during this show when we talk about every case, I'm like, yeah, that was a tip from a citizen. Yeah, a citizen told us about this. I mean, it sounds like it's overused, but it's so the truth. They're the eyes and ears of the community. They tell us what's going on, and then we do a lot of the heavy lifting many times. You know, we have the guns and we can arrest people, but they're the ones who have the most information, and they're the ones who you know, save the day many of the time. So just a big thank you to the Elgin community.
Sergeant, if you can maybe talk about the actual arrest that was made then. Pretty quiet in the end, I mean, with the way it went down. And
yeah, it was. You know, they had known from basically 2 points of information from the resident who originally heard him in the cellar, that he had gotten into a cab, and at the same time it sounds like we had already contacted the cab companies, and now they were recontacting us saying that they had a possible suspect. We left a very high number of officers in that area, and they saw the cab, they boxed the cab in. Again, they didn't know if he had taken over the cab. It turns out he was in the back seat of the cab, and literally he was blocked into the cab, and then we removed him from the cab, and almost, I don't want to say it was easy at that point.
Because somebody who'd run, you don't know what's going through his mind and what he's capable of doing.
And I think that was probably the reason for the response, is that, you know, obviously we're dealing with someone who is a criminal prisoner and is from Elgin Mental Health. So we're dealing with two, you know, risky things right there. So that's why, you know, we did it the way we did, but it was a very safe resolution.
And kind of scary. I mean, you think about it's great that when people call the police, but to have then the person that everyone is looking for get in your car, sitting right behind you, where there's no cage, and you're unarmed,
the same thing,
and still have the state of mind. So, okay, that sounds like it remained very cool, and just pulled off to the side. They kind of did use the technology that they have to make sure that they were in sync. That I just picked up a new person, and it all worked out well. So in the end, like I said, it just worked out well that he was placed in custody. But definitely some cool heads throughout that, with the lady who called us, the cab driver, all of it, the dispatchers. Worked out well all around.
We knew that we were going to talk a little bit long about this, and glad that it closed up. But there was also, yesterday, we had a large training exercise. And I believe
Jim put that
You
on.
put
Yeah.
that all together, right? You've been doing this now for a couple of years?
Yeah, we've been doing what we call active shooter drill or some sort of critical incident drill in the U46 schools for about 10 years. About 3 years ago, we started to bring the fire department in. Last year, they actually participated with us. This year, they participated full scale with us. Assistant Chief Dave Schmidt and Captain Rob Sagan put that together on the fire side. And eventually, it was almost 2 drills going on simultaneously, which was an active shooter at a school, followed up with a mass casualty drill. Everything from victims who were evacuated from the school to triage areas to eventually to, I think, 5 participating hospitals. And it was even a drill for them. A lot of their staff weren't even aware.
You
This
actually
was-
transported some of these volunteers.
Yep, we had volunteers who actually had, from the makeup artist from Nightmare on Chicago Street, had injuries painted on them, and they were transported to the ER, and eventually the drill ended for them once they reached surgery, and they had a doctor there prepping for surgery.
Wow.
So we identified a lot of good things that we need improvement, a lot of good things that are that worked well, and overall it was a really good drill. We had a lot of agencies that participated, and we were very happy with it.
Any, I don't want to say low light. What was like a high, if you could say? Like what was something came out of it that was very positive? Maybe what was something that was negative that came out of the drill that you said, we've really got to work on this?
I think one of the positives that we found was working with the other police agencies, and a lot of the things we had talked about we would do, we were able to successfully do. Some of the lows is we always train, and it doesn't always happen the way we expected. Some of our communication, the ways we thought we were going to be able to communicate, didn't work. But I think it also leads right to a positive. Is we didn't get frustrated right there. The officers who were participating looked for
Alternate ways.
Yeah. Probably the best comment I got from we had some outside evaluators was our patrol response. Our patrolmen did fantastic, and that was just it's a great thing because those are the people who are going to be the first responders in an incident like this. They're the ones who are going to do a majority of the work, and it was great to hear, especially coming from outside agencies, that your patrolmen did a fantastic job.
And unfortunately, in a situation like this with a mass incident at a school, if you don't train to it, if you don't practice, and you don't have real life situations that you're put in, when you get into that real life situation,
Sure.
it could be catastrophic, right?
And we're not fooling ourselves. We know if there was an incident tomorrow, we wouldn't do everything right.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've trained it, if we can eliminate, if there 10 things go wrong automatically, and we can eliminate or get through, 8 of them, that's a success.
Yeah.
And we're prepared for that.
And I think, and really kudos to Jim, and he's exactly right, Dave Schmidt from the fire department, but putting this one on, I think we had close to 200 volunteers come out, many police agencies, and the officers didn't know what they were going into, the first responders, so it was as real as we could make it with the makeup and everything. And we always say, we hope for the best, but you have to train for the worst. And the last thing the residents want is when something big happens and they need the police there right away, that, we didn't train for that because we played the odds that it wouldn't happen here in Elgin. So that's from everything from the equipment we have, and people, going back a few years, and we talked about our BAT and having an armored vehicle that's probably been used now hundreds of times. And not used all the time to stop bullets, but used all the time to pull up on people's front yards and get people out of the house immediately and
Just
keep an
that
officer safe. And
Initial intimidation factor, like, I'm not getting
absolutely.
through that.
And we'll roll it out. We get a call of somebody with a gun or somebody that it may turn into that. Jim's got a saying that he uses. He probably stole it from somebody else because everybody does. But if you think you need a resource, you're probably already too late. You needed it 10 minutes ago. And so that vehicle does no good for us sitting at the garage in the police department. So if we have calls with possible guns or people inside a house with guns, we're going to get that vehicle rolling. And Jim's really upped, as well as a lot of the supervisors throughout the police department, has really upped our level of training so that I think we're very prepared. But like he said, and Tim Michaels from the fire department hit on the head yesterday, we're light years from where we were just a few years ago. But it's chaos. A mass shooting. I was on the inside when it happened. You walk into that and you see kids laying there in just various positions, and even though it's fake, it still makes you take a breath for a second. And you need to train that, and it's going to be chaos, and it's just a matter of trying to organize that chaos as best you can. Our TRT team has done a fantastic job, and our patrol officers just rose the occasion as well, did a great job. So thanks to all the residents who came out as well and volunteered and helped, and U46, who was a huge partner with this. John Heiderscheit stepped up and got us a building, and it really just helped out a lot.
You told an interesting story about the involvement with the hospital.
Yes.
Can you relay that story? Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because they didn't know
I had,
to the extent of what
sure.
was happening as well.
I had one of our evaluators I had was Rick Saganik, and he's a former member of the tactical response team. So he was going to be an evaluator and basically a safety officer on the inside. And we gave the details out. He came up to me. He's like, "Did you say that they're transporting these victims to the hospitals?" And his wife, I believe, works in St. Joseph's Hospital in Elgin. And I said, "Yeah." And he then said to me, "My wife got an email saying that her director was going to be shadowing her today." And I said, "Oh, really?" He goes, "She has no idea this drill is going on." And that's part of the drill.
Awesome.
They're going to be receiving patients, and they're going to go into eventually they'll go into training mode, but. Each hospital, I believe, received a certain number of what they call red patients, which are critical ones, but in total they each received 10. And they literally walked in, paged out doctors who who didn't know they were going to be part of the drill until they got there.
So they got down there and thinking that it was a possible
Thinking it was a possible emergency. Probably upon their arrival, they found out it was a drill. And my understanding is that they were brought into the ER and then eventually moved as far along as they could in the process, even at the hospitals.
Amazing. I mean, how many people in all were involved? Do you have a number on that?
You know, I know for a fact we had 175 role players at the school. So you take that number, we had at least 100 police officers who were probably participating. We had multiple other agencies. Will County Sheriff actually participated. The Aurora Police Department participated. On the fire, they used MABUS, which is their mutual aid. I believe they had upwards of up to 50 fire departments who were participating in provided personnel. And then we had, I think maybe at least 100 to 150 observers from other police departments who wanted to come and watch to see so that they could take it back to their police departments.
500 and some people
U46.
involved in all this, and
Even
you coordinated it all.
Sure, U46 even participated. They had their buses out there. They were doing what they call reunification. Our public works even participated. We had Aaron Neal set up, all the logistics, even blocking traffic so we could have a safe scenario in a real situation. We'd even use public works to do that. So it was a total city response from the city of Elgin, but even just bigger with all the mutual aid.
But one of the steps too that Jim just hit on as well, I know we're running out of time, but the buses and making sure that when this happens, we need people out. Well, we need buses there. So how do we get the buses there? And then how are the kids on the bus? And then where do they go? And how are they reunited with their families? And so all of that was pushed through. We found holes in that system as well. So some people ask, why Will County? And this was I don't know if there's been a bigger event, at least around here, in a long time, if ever. So people come to it, and we'll go to somebody else's if they have one, and it's just because it takes so much to put on that anybody wants to come and just observe it. You learn something every time, so it's just a fantastic event. And I agree, it's sad that we have to plan that way, but it's a reality, and it was just a great training event. So thank you to everybody who was part of it.
As much as you prepared for it as well, overwhelmed? Did you feel?
Oh yeah, it's an interesting thing. We spend more time putting all the safety protocols, arranging for volunteers, everything. The only part of the scenario that's scripted is the first 2 minutes.
Right.
And people think I'm kidding when I say it, and I'm not. It's literally the first 2 minutes, and after that, I can't control what happens because it's what the role players do,
right.
what the first
react,
responders do.
yeah.
And, it went very well. We were really happy with the overall police response. We definitely have things we're going to correct, but overall we were very happy.
Well, busy week. I know there was at least 2 other stories we wanted to get to, but we're not going to be able to this morning. But great job, guys. Continue. I know City Manager Sean Stagel had some great words about you, the Elgin Police Department, saying finest in the anywhere. I believe to paraphrase what he said, but Sean Stagel had some very nice things to say as well on his Facebook regarding the incident yesterday, and haven't seen anything about the training exercise, but sounds like it was a massive undertaking. So thank you very much for doing that. And
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for coming in.
No, we appreciate it. And quick
Yes.
thank you to the Blackhawk residents as well. They had the big picnic invited. Remember,
Right.
I called last week
Yep.
on air, Illinois, and so went to that, and it was a great time. So thank you to them, and here's to a nice weekend.
Yep, sounds like it's going to be a good one.
Awesome. You're listening to AM 1410, WRMN.
And Elgin.